Welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. I'm Gordon Mack, your host, with a special guest, former host, one and only Lincoln Strike. Lincoln, we got you. Kevin's on paternity leave, so we bring in another father here. Lincoln, back to the pod. First of all, Lincoln, thanks for joining us. And what have you been up to since we last talked?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I still haven't cut my hair. Wait, I need some clarity though. Kevin's on paternity leave. His wife had the baby in like March or April. Why is he on paternity leave now?
So the way paternity leave works at Flo is you have 6 months to use it, but you don't need to use it all in the beginning. So you can spread it out. So he's like, all right,
that's cool.
I'm going to use it in July when, the season's kind of down low and maybe better weather. So you can go with your family somewhere with your kids. So that's probably why.
Okay. But he's back for the Olympics, right?
Spread it out. Yeah, he'll be back for the Olympics. Yeah.
Okay. But I'm good.
Yes,
I'm doing well. I was excited. Got it. I was excited to have you ask me to come on. Gave me an excuse on the middle of Friday to watch some Monaco, which, there were some exciting moments. We'll get to them, I guess, right? But I kind of was left it just a tad disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, Monaco always is that one meet that we think is like literally Worlds 2.0. They get always the best athletes in pretty much every event. Clearly, I think they have the most money for appearance fees, so that they're able to put together these amazing fields. And sometimes you do get some good hits. Sometimes you get some world records, American records. But I think because the Olympics are so close, not everyone is willing to go all in on a Diamond League performance. And I think that's probably why it's not like certain other notable years of multiple world records all in the same meet. But I still think it was a good meet, nevertheless. We saw some interesting things
I'm not
happen.
complaining too much. Yeah. Yep.
Now, before we get into recapping the Diamond League, there was kind of news, but not really. Lincoln, you weren't a part of this, but me and Kevin were breaking down the whole sha'carri Richardson situation with her being banned because of the marijuana use and not being a part of the 100-meter team, which was crazy. It happened last weekend. But then news came out earlier this week that she's not going to be on the 4x1. Lincoln, first of all, what's your first overall take to this whole sha'carri Richardson situation, from testing positive, this 30-day suspension, not being on the 100-meter team, and now not being considered an alternate or a part of the 4x1 team?
I mean, just stepping even back further than that, this whole sha'carri Richardson experience has been wild for the last, 3 weeks. I mean, she, with her 100-meter win at the trials, which obviously has since been disqualified, she became like a veritable internet star. Like, I haven't checked in the last week, but her Instagram was over 2 million followers. I mean, that doesn't happen for track athletes outside of Usain Bolt. I mean, the popular American athletes have, 100,000 to maybe 500,000 followers, but she was becoming a superstar, and she still is. The marijuana thing, I think my thoughts are the same as a lot of people. It's incredibly, it's incredibly dumb that marijuana is still considered a banned substance. And it's laughable that it's considered one because supposedly it has, it can get improved performance. I mean, not saying I've ever used marijuana. I'm not saying it either, but I can tell you with relative confidence, it does not improve athletic performance. That being said, and I know she was mourning the death of her mother, and so that's what really complicates it. So I don't have like one strong take other than to say she shouldn't have smoked marijuana simply because it's in the rules and it jeopardized her chance to win an Olympic gold medal. But at the same time, she had extenuating circumstances, so I could kind of understand it. And it just highlighted, and I think most people now see, it shouldn't be in the rule book that you get any suspension for using a substance like marijuana that's legal in Oregon, where she, I think, used the substance. So it's a dumb rule, but it's also a rule. So I think it's sad, but by the letter of the rule, she had to be banned. It was just blown out to an even bigger degree because of how big of a star, obviously, she had become. If this was any other random athlete, somebody, even somebody who would have won the the 15 or the, the 800, it would have been nowhere near this big. But because she was the best sprinter in the US, best 100-meter runner in the US, and had really just like got this online personality going, it just took on a whole other thing. So I guess I think, like most people, I would say dumb rule, but it's a rule nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, that was my reaction to dumb rule. I was more upset with the rule than the ban and all this craziness. But there was that glimmer of hope after she did get banned from the 100 that she would be on this 4x1 team, and she wasn't put on it. There's different takes out there. I heard multiple theories. I heard a theory that she technically wasn't eligible to be selected to the 4x1 because in order to be selected, you have to be eligible the day you're selected, not eligible the day you run the race that you're selected for. So that was the argument. Like, she could never have been on the 4x1 because the way they select the 4x1 team, for those who don't know, top 4 are automatically on it, and then there's 2 at-large spots. And notoriously, those 2 at-large spots have always gone the 5th and 6th place runners at the 100-meter final to avoid any controversy. But we never had a situation like this where clearly sha'carri deserves to be in that top 6. But there was people bring up the rule books talking about that technically she wasn't eligible to be selected, but that's people kind of reading the rules in different ways. Some people were like, nah, that's just how you interpret it. And then there was other people who were saying that there was like conflict internally about whether or not what leg she would be able to run. Like, she wanted to run the anchor leg, or her coach wanted her to run the anchor leg. They wanted her to run the third leg. And maybe that little argument in general caused them to just like not pick her at all to get rid of that controversy. The 4x1 is full of controversy with people dropping the batons, the order, people making the team, not making the team. Every year, without a doubt, 4x1 gives us something to talk about. But do you think that USATF should have found a way to put her on the 4x1?
I come with it with conflicting things. Ultimately, I think no, for a couple reasons. One, this sounds like a legal mumbo jumbo, but it sets a bad precedent. People all of a sudden that if you don't go to the next people down on the list, they're, people are going to not make the final, but they're going to be like in future years and be like, well, you picked somebody outside the top 6 finishers with sha'carri Richardson. What's the difference here? You should pick me. And it could be a whole thing where, when they have this system where they honor the top 6, it's just much more cohesive. Also, it comes down to, do I think she's would necessarily test positive ever again? No. But let's imagine just a crazy situation with me for a second where they go to Tokyo and she runs the final and they win whatever medal, and it doesn't matter if it's gold, but bronze, silver, whatever. And then after that, she tests positive again for marijuana or something. Do I think that's going to happen? No. But imagine that her whole team loses their medal. And then it's like, USATF, what are you doing putting this person who got hit with a ban on this team? So I get it from that perspective, not putting her on there. And then also the fact that, setting a bad precedent. But I also, again, not to complicate things, I also am like, this would be a good story. And again, going back to her popularity, good for the Olympics too, to have her in some event. So I see the pros and the cons. Ultimately, if I was making the decision, I'd come back to she can't compete. But man, this is so unfortunate. I can really see both sides. And I lean on the decisions that were made ultimately, despite, NBA players coming into the fray and, really popular people from our culture coming in and supporting her. I mean, heck, we had, AOC coming in asking for her to compete. Things just got kind of absurd. I think it was the right call for her to not be in the Olympics, ultimately, if I really had to put my name on it and decide.
Yeah, and even if you look at this like complex headline, Diddy addresses sha'carri Richardson's Olympic marijuana controversy. If they let Michael Phelps swim, they should let her run. And it's like, well, they banned Michael Phelps as well. They banned him for 3 months. It just happens that his ban
he didn't
overlap with the Olympics. So like,
yeah,
people
exactly,
forget, like,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about this whole situation is like, our sport is so weird with timeliness that if your ban happens to fall in the most important moment, because we don't have these important moments throughout the entire year, you know, it's a bigger deal. So that like there's people who just don't understand that. Like, yeah, they're banning everyone equally. It just becomes unequal when the ban overlaps with that one moment that matters most. So, and that's just a luck of the draw timeline of when you test it.
Yeah, and
whatever it
I
is.
really, my wife loves being on TikTok, and this has crossed over into into TikTok territory of people commenting on all the various things going on in track that they're just jumping in on right now. I do agree with a lot of people that are even uninformed about the marijuana rule. It's a dumb rule, but it's been crazy with this sha'carri Richardson situation. All the people, and then they're jumping in on the DSD arguments. And people are talking about what's in a burrito too that would never be talking about that. It's just been a wild ever since the trials, man. Track and field is front and center. It's been fun. I know some people have suffered because of it, but it's been cool to see like track just getting all this publicity.
And we thought the Shelby Houlihan situation was going to be like the craziest thing that happened. It's like now like
that
a
seems like a year ago
compared
now.
to everything else.
Yeah,
with like all the fast times and sha'carri world. Anyway, we'll probably be talking about sha'carri for every pod going forward throughout the Olympics. Especially, I want to say one thing before we get into the Diamond League. She probably, I think, will likely return to the track at Prefontaine Classic. I'm guessing it's the first Diamond League after the Olympics. It's end of August. So many more people are going to be tuned into that race than would have been tuned into that race if none of this happened and she won Olympic gold. If none of this happened and she won Olympic gold, the hype around her regular season track races is so much bigger now. Like,
she could be the people's champ because let's be honest, Tokyo there's not going to be any fans, so she can't be the people's champ at the Olympic Games, but you can be when you bring it back stateside. You got those no capacity limit. Well, maybe Hayward Field still does, but we're just going full bore here. So listen, if you're going to pick a year to get banned from the Olympics, a year when there's no fans allowed in the stadium, I mean, there's plenty to still be had. And I just saw that graphic there. If you wanted to pull it up from her Twitter, the fact that, like all these events that are coming up. I mean, I know you guys have probably discussed this at length, but I love that tweet, 20 to 22, 20 to 25, undefeated. That's how I feel personally. I've taken some L's in the past and in 2021, but those 4 years ahead, currently undefeated. So I'm the same as sha'carri in some ways.
Yeah. We're all going undefeated in 22 to 2025. That's the plan.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So Monaco, Diamond League went down. A bunch of stuff happened. I kind of went through a bunch of the events, what I thought was most notable. I think first thing I want to talk about is that men's 1500. Timothy Cheruiyot wins convincingly from the gun, runs 3:28, number 7 all time. Jacob Ingebrigtsen, who we would say is the Tokyo favorite right now, gets third in the race. But we just saw a man run the world lead, number 7 all time for Kenya, and he's not on the Olympic team. What is going on? Like, that is incredible. We talk about stars not making Olympic teams on the American side, but we might see the situation on the Kenyan team. First of all, what was your reaction to Cheruiyot's race? Beating what is a really good field. You could argue it's an Olympic field minus a couple guys with that win, and then ultimately juxtapose. That's not the right word. With the fact that he's not going to the Olympics as of right now.
Is that okay? So you need to catch me up a little bit. I know he finished 4th at the Kenyan trials. The good news is Athletics Kenya is notoriously finicky with their process, so it always leaves open a possibility. When is the deadline that they have to announce their entries? Like, when is this officially happening for Athletics Kenya?
So I'm not sure the exact deadline, but I do know that they named the top 3 guys at their trials. The team, there was reports that one of their guys, I forget who it was, one of the younger guys, technically didn't pass like the doping protocols. Not that he tested positive or anything, but he didn't like take enough classes. He's like, you didn't do enough classes and enough out of competition tests. But he's like 19.
Tim Cherry's
like,
his team on it.
It's like they might be able to kick one out on a technicality and then put Chariot
Oh my
in.
God.
Chariot was asked, "Hey, are you going to be on the Kenyan team after this race?" And he said, "I hope so. I don't know yet, but this week I'll know." That comes from Nick Sha'carri.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out this week. I think maybe Athletics Ken is going to be like, "Hey man, he just beat Ingebrigtsen. He just ran 3:28. He can win the Olympics. We should kind of let's be hypocrites and take one of the kids off and put Chariot on."
I mean, absolutely put him on the team. I mean, it looked like the Timothy Chariot of forever. I mean, that just looked like that's how Tim Chariot runs, stalks the Pacers, and then dominates the last couple laps. I actually didn't know that 3:28.28, which was his time, was a personal best. I mean, he's the, according to time, he's the fittest he's ever been. Now we'll see if he makes the Olympics, if he's can go through the rounds as well as he did in Doha, but absolutely should be on the team. This Athletics Kenya should not fumble this ball. I know that, if Athletics Kenya was trying to use a US based model of the top three, seems like they're semi going to that system, but it's never for certain, then he wouldn't be on the team. But I hadn't heard that news that you said that there may have been some anti-doping protocols not fulfilled by the third place finisher. If there's any doubt that's already out there, I think we can say that Timothy Chariot's going to be on the team. He crossed the line and looked more relieved and thrilled than just the product of him winning Monaco. The guy's won Monaco before. He's run 3:28 before. Heck, he's won a world title. He has not won an Olympic title. And today I saw a guy crossing the line that looked like he knew that if he fared well today, he was going to be on the Olympic team. Obviously, he's not going to come out and say it, but I will truly be stunned if he's not named to the Olympic team. The 1500 is one of the best events in track and field. It brings with it a ton of legacy when you talk about guys like Hisham El Garouj, Asbel Kiprop, guys who have won Olympic gold medals. Chariot has that chance to represent Kenya when Kenya, let's admit they're kind of down in some other events. No Kipruto. Who knows what can happen in the 5 and the 10, but the fact is they need his performance. They just don't know. I don't know where else on the men's side they're pretty secure, or at least have a very good shot to get a gold medal as far as the distance races. But I can tell you for sure that the 1500, if they have Timothy Chariot, they get that best shot. And he showed that today. He worked Ingebrigtsen. Honestly, Gordon, I didn't know the guy in second place from Spain in a t-shirt. I'd never heard of that guy. Who was that?
Yeah, I didn't hear this.
Katir?
That's what Monaco brings out, random dudes who can come in and just throw down an incredible PB. He's born in 1998, so he's only 2 years older than Ingebrigtsen. I never heard of him. I don't know what his other PBs are, but 328. I mean, I have a feeling that that's not going to hold
by 5
up.
seconds. Yeah.
I don't think that's going to hold up.
He run 3:33 before. Yeah.
I think Monaco is just like this weird race where just where you go to get your PB, and the order really isn't indicative of what will happen in a championship style race.
Sure. No.
So yeah. I mean, he ran 3:36 in 2020. Well, look at that improvement. 3:37, 3:36, and 3:28. Boom.
That's pretty good. It would be suspicious if he wasn't so young. He's obviously very young, so just looks to me like a breakout. But yeah, that's not bad. Mr. Katir. Go ahead.
One thing about the take of put Chariot on the Olympic team, Chariot, sorry. Us Americans, we're kind of all coming off as kind of like these little hypocrites, right? Because we love our Olympic trials and it's top 3 and you're in, right? But for other countries, we're like, no, don't do top 3. Let Chariot in. Like we don't want you to follow the rules that we love. We want you to break the rules. Because like if this was the other way around, and Donovan Brazier's hurt, but say Donovan wasn't hurt and he got 4th, just happened to have a bad race.
Yeah.
Would Americans be like put Donovan Brazier on the team, or would we be like, no, top 3? It's like one of those weird things. We want other countries to like go against their own rules because we don't really care about their order of operations. We just I think it's kind of interesting, right? Like that we're like, screw over your third place finisher at Kenyan trials. We want chariot.
We're in the US, we're just so plush with stars, and we've had, this Olympic trials formula for so long that we know it's seal proof, or not seal proof, but it's sealed. It's, uh, it doesn't matter if the world record holder, stumbles in a race, it's over for them. I mean, that's just the way it rolls. However, in other countries, they kind of have what I think of as the Usain Bolt rule, when maybe they don't have as many stars, but if they have a few, and especially one like, let's say, as big as Usain Bolt, yeah, I don't care if he false starts in the Jamaican final. The dude was always going to make the Olympic team, because it would be a detriment to the country's athletic program if something was to happen to that. US has so many stars, it doesn't matter, even if Sadie McLaughlin fell in the final, yeah, it would have been harsh on USATF, just as an image overall, to not have somebody that good in their at the Olympic Games. But we also have tons of other stars. That's not the case. Kenya normally has stars, but not as much now. They need chariot, and they should do like what Jamaica would have done ever. I think Bolt maybe had one issue where he like had a bad race at trials or something. I can't remember exactly, but they named him to the team. Kenya is at a stage they need to deploy that program as well. If a guy in subsequent races has clearly proven fitness, put him on the team. I'm sorry, third place dude. Maybe you'll have a chance down the road. We're talking about a guy who's won a world title. You win a world title and you'll get such deference. So yeah, put him on the team.
Men's 1500 was great. Women's 1500 was even better. We saw it's kind of weird to call Kipyegon pulling off an upset. She's Olympic champion. She's been running well, pretty much the majority of her career. But her smoking Sifan Hassan in that final 100 in the women's 15, which was a fast pace, she ends up running 351 to Sifan's 353. Number 2 all time if you don't include the China times. Number 4 all time if you include those 90s China times. But 351 for Kipyegon, well, I did not see that coming. I was like, whoa, this is Hassan's time, not Kipyegon. But Kipyegon's like, don't forget about me. I'm one of the best in the world.
Watching that race, I think, yeah, Kipyegon, she's obviously the reigning Olympic champion, and not to be forgotten, she got silver in Doha, so she's been good for the last couple of years, just right underneath Hassan's shadow based off 2019 doing that 10-15 double. The thing today with Kipyegon for me, 351.07, so exactly a second off the world record. I think if she would have gone a little earlier, and because look at the gap she put on Hassan back to second. They were close all the way to the last 150, and then she put 2.5 seconds on her. I think if Kipyegon would have gone a little earlier with all that, hindsight's 2020, but I think she would have broken the world record today and maybe got under 350. She waited and then absolutely crushed Hassan. You could tell she was just sitting on her. You could tell in the last lap that Hassan was doing all the work, was running out of steam, and that Kipyegon was going to blow past her. I think you have to put her as the Olympic favorite at this point, just given her, not only her ability to time trial, but her record in championships, being the defending Olympic champion. And we don't know, Hassan, who knows what event she's going to do. She hasn't ruled out a triple. I don't think she should do a triple. But there's just a lot of other stuff going on for Hassan. Kipyegon showed she's the class of the women's 15 right now.
I think this performance is Sifan being told in front of a worldwide audience, don't do the triple, do the 5 and 10, stay away from Kipyegon in the 15. You can be a double Olympic champion. Mm-hmm. No need to go crazy with this whole tripling craziness. Go for the 15, 10K, 5, 10K double, and she'll be the favorite in both of those. She still ran 353 in this race.
Are you sure about that?
I think she'll be she'll be 100% the favorite in the 5 and 10. She showed that she can run world record type pace in the 10, even though she's not the world record holder anymore. She's definitely a better kicker than anyone in the 10. And in the 5, it looks like she ran poorly because she got smoked, but she still smoked everyone else. As long as there's no Kipyegon, fresh Kipyegon, you should be fine.
I think she's got a tricky decision at her hands, because one, she can do all three. The issue is obviously burnout, and then not burnout, but just frying herself. And then she, I on the top of my head, I don't know the order of events. So that will determine a lot about her wanting to triple. I don't know if the 10K is first. I'd have to look that up. The order of events is going to be very important for how she chooses, if she chooses to do this 10,000. But you don't think Letenzabet Gede, now the world record holder in the 10,000, would be the favorite there, or in the 5,000?
No.
She also holds the 5,000 record. You still think it's Hassan?
Yeah, no, because Hassan has been able to show that she can run those times in that range, and if you're able to run the 5K, 10K type world record type pace range, throw that together with your 1500 speed, that is recipe for being the favorite. Like if Mo Farah was running just 5 seconds off the world record, you would make Mo Farah the favorite against the world record holders because you'd recognize, all right, he can handle that pace and he has the best kick.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I'm mostly kind of playing devil's advocate. I'd still probably put her as the 5 and 10K favorite, but I do think Gede will have a better kick. She's not the favorite in the 15 anymore. I can absolutely tell you that based on how confident Kipyegon. It's like she knew she was going to have a kick to beat Hassan, and a absolutely, normally a fantastic kicker. So maybe it was just an off day. I mean, Hassan still ran 3:53, but I don't know though if it'll make her reconsider the triple. I think she may still look at it as, I got to tweak a few things and I can beat Kipyegon. I dominated her in Doha. So we'll see. I would love for her to do the triple though. I don't think she'll be the favorite in the 15 though.
Lincoln, I have to ask you something.
What?
Have you ever spent a long days of work? You just no, you didn't take any breaks. You skipped lunch. You were just from 9 to 5. You were super locked in, and you did everything you got to do. You completed the day. It was a Friday.
Yeah.
And then at 4:59, you get an email asking you to do another 2 hours worth of work. How would you react to that 4:59 email saying you got to do 2 more hours of work on a Friday?
Well, see, I don't hold types of jobs like that. That's big. That's the first thing how I react. But no, I would react poorly to that. I'm not sure what you're referencing, but do tell me, because I assume the answer you're looking for is you would not react well. What are you referencing?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to say, because we're not elite athletes, that's the closest we could get to having to deal with what happened in the men's steeple, where they rang the bell lap twice.
Oh, yeah.
Where the look in the eyes of Keegan when he's crossing, thinking he had just finished his bell lap with the impressive kick, and then had to be told, you got to do it again, man. You got to kick again. You have to do one more lap. I felt so much pain I felt so much pain for him because he was sprinting so much in that second to last lap, thinking he was coming home for a victory, with going into the weekend, putting all that hard work, and then being told right before you cross the finish line, hey, no, we're going to need you to run again. We're going to run one more lap.
Well, the thing is,
I feel like they did him dirty.
This happens. Imagine this happened in the Olympics. I mean, we're fortunate that I don't know if they just have better officials at the Olympics. In the NFL, they have their so-called best referees do the Super Bowl. To my knowledge, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, maybe a listener, this has never happened in the Olympics. I mean, can you imagine the disaster that this has happened? But Monaco has had some issues in the past. I think back to 2019, that 400 fiasco where Jonathan Jones and some other guy, I forget. Jonathan Jones they called the race back. He literally ran the entire race not knowing what was going, if they had called it back. So Monaco's had its share of issues. My thing is, we obviously have a universal track and field sign for the last lap. It's the bell. What we need is, when they mistakenly do the bell and the officials do that, we need a sign that everyone recognizes, or a sound that everyone recognizes, to call that bell off. I I don't know, a siren or something, be like, so that everybody would know, hey, it's a mistake. We were just kidding. That was a false alarm. Because this happens more than people realize. Like I said, thank goodness it's never happened to my knowledge at the Olympics or on a bigger stage than this. But yeah, poor Keegan. My thing though is also, you're a world-class athlete, and I know it is not his fault. I'm not blaming him. Did he not at any time look up at the clock when he was finishing, when it still said like 6 minutes and something? And you're like, are you so tired that you can't put that together? That I'm not asking him to count laps, but like, what do you think? What is your brain? I know you're in a fatigued state, but are you looking at the clock and being like, putting it together that I'm sprinting? I heard the bell, so it should be the last lap. But at the same time, the clock is reading 6:50 something. So that can't be right. Maybe I should keep running. I have a lot of questions coming off of that. Basically, we need to figure out this thing with the officials. That's the first thing. The second thing is, especially at Monaco, because like you mentioned, all the money they put in this meet, they've had some snafus last couple of years. But for the athlete, it's like, you should probably know that you're not about to run 6:50 for a steeplechase. I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean, when you don't do math in your head, you're not thinking about time. You might think the clock is wrong, and it's just, you're relying on the bell means I'm done. How would someone? Why would a bell ringer lie to me? In this case, they did. But yeah, Keegan, I'm trying to figure out what his final lap was. I mean, he was in the lead. I guess I can't remember. These splits are really weird. They don't tell you how fast the split.
They're strange. They're every 100 meters, so that is why you would think you would need a split every 100 meters. I think at the bell he was at.
How do you read this? How do you read these splits?
So I got it. Elon. He was 6:50. He was 6:57 at the bell, and then he finished 8:15. So he ran a 78 last lap.
Okay. Yeah, they need to work on these split graphics. Anyway. So yeah, but the win was good. I mean, I think it wasn't that crazy of a race. Bohr got 5th in it. Just the wildness of Benjamin Keegan thinking he was coming home for dinner and then being told, no, you gotta go out and do some more yard work for in front of his. You could just see he's like, God damn it, this is the worst thing ever. So felt bad for him.
I mean, yeah, it's just you forget. I mean, I haven't done a track race in a million. Sorry, my phone thing is triggering off the thing. People are texting me about the steeple thing. It's crazy. No, I'm just kidding. You forget how much when you don't. I haven't raced in a long time, but when you're kicking, you really expend everything, and that was shown with Keegan. Because I think back of obviously lower stakes than this, but like Lopez Lemong kicked a lap early and sprinted all the way, and he was still able to run like a 59 last lap after closing. So you thought maybe that could happen with Keegan, because obviously everyone saw it. The announcers were like, "Oh God, they rang the bell with 800 to go. We can tell what's going to happen," and what they predicted it was exactly what happened. But man, he had absolutely nothing after that. So it's too bad for him. Luckily, it wasn't the Olympics.
Yeah, luckily it wasn't the Olympics. It's like, yeah, if you want this to happen, you happen. It's kind of like, you want your marijuana ban to happen in November, not in August. So you want the bell lap to be malfunctioning in April and not August. I guess that's how it works.
The great thing about I was just going to say the great thing about the sha'carri Richardson ban is now every track and field athlete for sure knows what the ban is for using marijuana. So, and out of competition, I don't think, do they test for marijuana out of competition? Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they do, but in competition, they know it's 30 days. So it's like, in April, maybe it's 420 and a track athlete's like, no, it's on the banned list. Well, it's only a 30-day suspension. I'll only be banned until May. I could use a little break. Just go for it, Anyways.
Sha'carri, in order to get her ban reduced to 30 days, she had to take a class. I wonder, who else is in that class with her? Like, if it's an in-person class, and be like, "Oh yeah, what are you in for?" But you're like, "Oh, what are you here?" And like, "Oh yeah, my mom does, or my dad doesn't want me to smoke weed anymore. I'm 16, whatever. He wants me to focus on my history class." Sha'carri's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to the Olympics." It's wild.
It's tough. It's a rough crowd.
Going down the list, women's steeple, American record attempt almost. Emma Coburn was in the. She just needed what, a 70-second last lap to break 9 minutes
Oh my God.
in the steeple, and then she hit that final water barrier, which she normally never does. She's normally pretty good on hitting that final water barrier clean.
Yeah.
Reminded me of Evan Jager back in 2015 in Paris, where he was on pace to break 8 minutes in the steeple and hit the final barrier and wasn't able to break that 8-minute barrier. I kind of felt the same way here. Steeple, man, you need everything to go right. You need that perfect pacing.
Yeah.
You need to feel right in order to get a good PB. But Coburn looked good. It makes me think Coburn, while she didn't get what she wanted here, I think Coburn could win the Olympics.
Oh, absolutely. I think she should take away more positives than negatives here. I mean, that you compared it to the Evan Jager Paris thing. I mean, that was just a straight up like clipping of the, this was a water barrier. So it's obviously a little different. She was right there neck and neck with Kiyang. And I think maybe just tried to get a little, when you're racing over the final water barrier, it's easy to get greedy because I'm just pulling this out of thin air, but I feel like 90% of the time, whoever's ahead, over the last water barrier is going to win the race. And so they felt like they both knew that. And Coburn tried to get a little edge and may have just jumped, I don't know, a little early, or maybe it was just freak thing and her foot just didn't plant well. But yeah, you feel for her. I mean, she still ran 9:09 and, she would have set a personal best if that wouldn't have happened, I think. So I truly think she would have won this race because Kiyang didn't close that well. It really wasn't a good last lap from anybody. She didn't close that well. I think Coburn, who's normally rock solid over the barriers, this was just a rare, like one of those like crazy occurrences, freak things that usually would never happen. Previously, I can't remember her falling on a barrier. So I think you have to take a lot of confidence. Obviously, you take more from a win and an American record. She didn't get either of those today, but she was up there the whole time and didn't have to, it wasn't a situation where she was like, oh, I have to rally and wait for these women to fall off a fast pace. No, she was up there. I mean, I think she hit 2,000 meters in 6 minutes. So on 9-minute pace, ready to possibly break 9 and get her American record back. But I don't know, just that last little barrier caught her. But yeah, should definitely take more positives than negatives from this race today.
Yeah, I agree with the positives over negatives. The one negative that can come from this race is a mental negative where, let's flash forward a month from now, you're in the Olympic final, you're in the same type of position that you were in this race. Maybe there's 2 others around you, so you're kind of broken away. You're in that top 3. You're going to get a medal, and you're going up to the final water barrier again, and you're like 10, 20 meters away from that final water barrier. What is going through your head in those 3 to 4 seconds before you hit that water barrier? Like, are you replaying this moment from a month prior? Are you able to do you overcompensate because of it? Do you slow up a bit? Do you try to over engineer it? Like, do you think that could affect her where she'll kind of have PTSD when she hits that final water barrier?
Get the steeple yips. I don't.
Yeah.
I think she's a world champion, and I think she'll take more positives from this, knowing she was right there and it was just a freak thing. I mean, she's solid technician as far as getting over the barriers and usually has no problems. It just so happens in domestic races she's always leading at this point. She had to do a little bit of the chasing here. Not that she's foreign to that. She's won a couple medals and has won 3 medals, excuse me, and been a world champion. So no, she's not going to get psyched out from this. There's no way. And you almost, I mean, if you wanted to have rose-colored glasses, rose-tinted glasses, you could. I would be willing to hear the argument that she's the Olympic favorite based on experience, not based on PBs, obviously. But when you talk about Kip Koech, the world record holder, being nowhere near that 8:44 shape, she was second today, but that was because Coburn fell. I could hear an argument that Coburn is the favorite. I mean, I think most people would say it's Kiyang, but I think Coburn was going to beat her today if not for that fall. So given her experience and, now she'll have maybe a little chip on her shoulder. I don't think that barrier falling is going to psych her out at all. Yeah, gold is still very much in the realm of possibility and much better shot than she had in 2019. Obviously, when when Chip Koech was on a different level. So Coburn, once again, I got to say, just has to be feeling good about herself, other than just that slight issue.
Yeah, if betting's legal where you're at, you should definitely put some money on Coburn because you'll make a lot
You think?
because she's going to be underrated going into this. They'll like, 909 season best or whatever or season best, 908 season best. And you see, 903 from Kiyang. There's no way Coburn's going to be there. It's like, yeah, well, did you watch Monaco? She's about to beat her.
Yeah.
And then just a freak thing happened. So, yeah, I think Coburn is the favorite. I'm willing to declare it now. Official. Coburn favorite.
It's tough. I mean, obviously Chip Koech, maybe she could gain some, enough fitness to where she's back to some, she doesn't have to be in 844 shape to win gold. That is Chip Koech. If she can get in the 850 range fitness, I think she can probably outrun everybody. But I don't think there's enough time between now and the steeple final until then. So I'm still leaning towards Kiyang, but yeah, I can understand that. Like I said, I can understand the argument for Coburn.
Men's 100, this was kind of surprise of the meet, but I feel like I know what happened. Men's 100, Ronnie Baker takes the win in 9:91. Trayvon Bromell, who had been undefeated up to this point, 10-0, runs 10:01 to get fifth. He loses to Andre DeGrasse, who got fourth. Lamont Jacobs, who gets third. Simbeni, who runs 9:98, gets second. Simbeni, who ran 9:85 a few days ago. But if you watch, so this race had a false start, and then they got called back. And if you watch this race through, I was watching it live, and I could have sworn on the second, gun going off after the false start, the second time they lined up, I thought I heard a second gun. Maybe it was like an echo or something. And when I heard what I thought was a second gun, I saw Trayvon Bromell kind of stand up a bit and have a little bit of a movement, kind of like a flinch. This is 5 or 10 meters into the race. And you saw Otto Bolden or heard Otto Bolden say Trayvon Bromell had a little a little yip in his step or something like that. And I was like, yeah, he did that because he thought they called it off again. And then after that, it was over. And Baker, who's one of the best in the field, was able to pull away. But I think this is I think Bromell purely got fifth in this race because of him thinking there was a second false start.
Yeah. I didn't see it as that. I'm not saying that you were wrong as far as a that he was maybe gathering himself for another false start. I did hear that echo, either echo or the gun, or I thought you're the same thing. I thought the race was going to be called back again. In general, when there's a false start, things kind of can get a little wacky. What I saw though from Bromell was it looked like his foot or his spike got caught during his drive phase. So it looked like he tripped a little bit to me, but maybe you're right. And it was like him slowing down to think it was another false start. To me, my eyes, it looked like his spike got caught. And so he stumbled a little bit. In any case, I guess it puts a little bit of doubt on Bromell, but I would still, we're speaking of these results with Coburn, how they apply to the Olympics. I don't think this is indicative of what's going to go down in Tokyo at all. I know this is Bromell's first loss, but you talk about the false start and then whatever the issue was next, whether he thought it was another gun or if his spike got caught. He's still the favorite. He should still be the favorite here. I think it was he doesn't have to get a fantastic start, but to get this bad of a start, it was too much to overcome. He also shut it down a little bit at the line. He wouldn't have won. Don't get me wrong. It's not like he quit, but he may have lost a place there for a second. It just was it's just one of those races for Brumell. You just, you crumple it up and throw it in the trash. There was just a lot that didn't go his way there. And so he's still the only 9.7 guy in the field, or the guy who's going to be able to run 9.7 in the final. I think Otto Bolden said it. If it's a 9.7 race, he's the only guy who's going to win at Tokyo. If he gets in the 9.9, so it's really anybody's race. So I think this is one bad race of the year, and I think everything else is going to be good.
Yeah, and big ups again to Baker, not to undermine what he did. Winning this race clearly shows that he is one of the favorites to get a medal. I think his ceiling is gold, provided Brumell has a bad race. But I feel like his floor is now like maybe bronze. I feel like he's showing that, hey, I'm going to be top 3 no matter what happens. I'm going to show up. I'm experienced. I've been through this game a lot. It may be my first Olympics, but like my floor is bronze. My ceiling is gold, provided Brumell has a bad race, but my floor is bronze.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you, if something like this happens in the Olympic final, I'm going to be very disappointed with the men's 100. I know that's an obvious statement, but when you look back on the possibilities that we could have had Christian Coleman running, in the 9.7s, coming off winning the world title. We could have had Noah Lyles in the form in the 100 that he was in 2019. To go from that to basically a slug out 9.9 race, that's going to be really disappointing. I don't think it'll be like that. Basically, Brumell has to know, all I need to do is be good, and I'm going to win. I'm going to win the Olympic gold medal. If I have a really bad day, that's the only way somebody else is going to win. Today was a really bad day. And I'm hoping for more excitement out of the men's 100, because today's race was a dud. And not just because Ronnie Baker is kind of a quiet guy and he's not the flashiest dude. And so it's not that I didn't want him to win and nothing like that, but 991 in this field with the way Brumell's running is considered a dud. So
yeah, and I also think the odds of a USA sweep, at first it looked pretty good with the way Kerley looked in Eugene, but
yeah,
Simbene now look good back-to-back races. I think it's gonna be hard for USA to go 1, 2, 3. I do think Simbene could pick up that big 3.
I know Kerley made the team. Obviously Kerley disproved some people, and by making the 100 team and finishing 4th or whatever it was in the 200. And I'm in Taylor, Texas right now, his hometown. He's got a billboard out near the high school. I was very impressed by that. Awesome for him. I still don't get why he's running the 100 right now. I just don't. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, and he'll win a medal. But
he's an answer
Fred
for
Kerley
you.
today. What 10? Yeah, he wrote greatness. I get it, man. From one Taylor, Texas resident to another, I admire his boldness. But today I see him, and I don't see somebody who's got. He didn't run like a medalist today, and the 400. I mean, Michael Norman right now is getting beat by Bryce Deadman. Like, come on, dude, Fred Kerley. I think you missed a chance for Olympic gold, bud, by choosing the 100 and not the 4. Maybe he's been maybe I don't know. Maybe he's seen something in practice in his 400 that he doesn't like. But when you're talking about the reigning Olympic champions, probably never going to be himself ever again. Michael Norman, like I said, just got beat by Bryce Deadman, and Stephen Gardner's good, but he's not like a super duper star at any rate. I don't know why Fred Kerley's messing around getting 6th in the Monaco 100 when he could have been a gold medal factor in the 4. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue his ceiling in the 100 is silver, right? With Brumell getting that one man he probably won't.
He's not getting silver.
But like, I mean, I think
hope he makes the final.
If Fred Kerley runs like the way he did at the trials and has a little bit of an improvement from that, you could get silver in Tokyo.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I 9.8.
Okay, sure enough.
So,
he ran 9.8. Fair enough. You're right. Today's. Did they slow down the track? The false start must have just screwed everyone up, because there's no reason you should go from running as fast as they did in Eugene and then running as slow as they did today. Now maybe you say, okay, they were kind of peaked for the trials. fine. And maybe it's the jet lag coming over, but I don't know, man. Today's 100 was so disappointing.
I think it's also disappointing. A lot of times these Diamond League sprint events are not, especially short sprint, aren't as good because there's no like first round, second round, like where a lot of times there's semifinals, finals.
Yeah.
Where you have like, all right,
yeah, you sharpen
I ran
up.
my race, I got the nerves out, I'm ready to go. Hour later to really let it loose. And I think that's
it's kind of wild how that works.
A reason.
You wouldn't think that's how that would work, but you're right. I mean, that's why, sprinters, you see the world records so often at the games or at the world championships. It's like they need the rounds to really be fully locked in.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe Kerley will prove me wrong. They'll have 100 like this again, and then he'll run like today, and he'll run 985, win the gold medal, and I'll be the town idiot of Taylor, Texas, when he has a parade here. But I don't know. Today, not so encouraging for him in the 100.
Talk a little bit about the men's and women's 800. On the men's side, Nigel Amos is back. I mean, this guy was a teenager back all the way in 2012 when he's going up against Rudisha, and now he's still back in that sub 143 form, runs 142.91. Career was right there with him, shows he's back in the good form, 143. Murphy all the way back, 144, still runs a solid time, and Hopple 147, kind of finished dead last. Murphy, man, like, this guy's interesting. I mean, he looked like, world beater in that Olympic trials. And then he has back-to-back kind of duds in these 2 European races that he's run. And I get it. It's not that big of a deal. But I think Murphy legitimately does not care about these races. He's tweeted it himself. He tweeted the only thing that matters is the Olympic trials. It doesn't matter whether you're running 150 or 142, getting first or dead last. I mean, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but what's your reaction to Murphy coming off of a 143, beating a good field in the U.S. to now having back-to-back like subpar races? I mean, he ran fast here, but he got beat by 6 other guys.
My reaction with Murphy is that he's one of the best round runners in the world. He is going to be much better when it comes to rounds. He benefits just like Nick Simmons used to. This guy benefits from rounds for sure. And I think it even helps his fitness to even, run. Everybody was running fast at Hayward Field. So he may be, a little flat coming off that. I've been a little confused with what his health was. He said, he's talked about like how he almost didn't run the trials after tweaking his hammy, and then he comes out and dominates the trials and then is right back to racing. So I was kind of confused. Like, okay, you said you were like almost hurt to where you didn't race the trials, but then you win the trials and then very quickly start racing again. So it's like, I don't really understand. But if he's racing now, he should be healthy. I'm not worried about the times or performances right now because this guy is a rounds guy. I guarantee you there's 6 guys finish ahead of him today. One, maybe more of those guys won't even make the final. I mean, that's how tough things are. I always have confidence that Murphy's going to make the final. But it is just in a vacuum today. Yeah, not great. We have a guy who, last year, Monaco winner, Donovan Brazier, not here, didn't make the team, hurt. Hopple, I believe, was like second there, dead last today. Just a really bad one from him. And then Murphy 7th. I think the Americans will fare much better than this when we get to Tokyo, but holy cow, not a good day for the USA. As far as I think coming into the year, we're like, oh my God, this is our event now. Hopple's on the come up. Murphy's a medalist. We got the reigning world champion, and then all of a sudden we don't have the world champion, and then who knows what's going to happen when we get to the Olympic Games with Hopple and Murphy, who really, I think both guys are need the rounds to be at their best. But yeah, we'll see with Amos. I mean, this is Amos's MO, right? It's win Monaco, run fast at Monaco, and then either in 2019 get hurt before Worlds, or not perform up to his best when it comes to that. So we'll see. Amos could dominate the Olympic Games, or he could like miss the final. So you never know. And then your guy, Career, right there, Mr. 400, 800 himself. Talk about, he is Probably the only 141 man in history. Or wait, no, he's like a 142-0 guy. Or is he a 141 guy? I can't remember. But in any case, he's like the most anonymous and forgettable, like super fast dude in the world. We just kind of forget. I know you don't, but you forget about him, right? Because he's had his own issues at the championship events. But man, career was right there today. So watch out for him as well. I mean, the 800 is just such a crapshoot. You obviously Radisha's not there anymore. Brazier's hurt. Didn't finish top 3 of the trials. There's no favorites. You can't pick a favorite right now. You can't pick Amos. He's so spotty in championship races. There's no favorite right now.
Do you think it'll be like 2017 or like Boss won?
Pierre Ambrose?
Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for the sake of the event, I hope it's not like a random. I really don't like when like a random person wins Worlds or the Olympic Games, where it's just like, this is not. I like when a person who's indicative of, like, I like when everyone performs up to their best and the best person overall wins. I'm not saying Pierre, my man from France, wasn't a good runner, but where's he been since? It's just like, we have these flash in the pan people, and the 800 deserves better than that. And we're looking for the heir apparent to David Rudisha. We thought we had it in Brazier. Now we're not going to have it this year because of that, because of an injury. Maybe Amos can finally. I mean, this is Amos's moment. If it's not this year, then it's never for him. Then he's just got that 2012 medal to lean back on from when he was 18 or 19. Because, oh my God, a giant door has been swung open for him with Brazier not being there. So this is his time. He's got to do it. He's a 141 dude. It is his time to win an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah, I think Brazier is the heir apparent to Rudisha. We just have to wait an extra year because he's going to dominate the next 4 cycles. It's just injury. But yeah, your take on Murphy though, I think is perfect. He is better in rounds. I think.
Oh, for sure.
We're seeing that. We're better in rounds. He's going to be the freshest guy in a final because the amount that puts in his legs compared to his competitors is very different. And I think that shows he looked most fresh in that final 150 at the trials. He looked like he was accelerating. Everyone else looked like they were falling apart. And I think we might see that again where Amos and Courier and all these guys and A-Rops, they're going to look good in these one-off races. But when it comes to the 3rd round at the Olympics, Murphy just needs to make sure. Murphy knows he's going to be able to make up maybe 5 to 10 meters on anybody in the final 150. So he just has to make sure, maybe final 200, 5 to 10 meters in a final 250. So he just has to make sure he's within 5 to 10 meters of the leaders with 250 to go, and he knows he can kind of close that. In this race, he doesn't need to worry about it. So women's 8, we're going long here. Laura Muir, who's not running the 800, wins in 156. Kate Grace, though, I kind of want to focus on Kate Grace, 157.2. Travis, if you could bring up Kate Grace's World Athletics page, I want to show that. But
wow, we're asking
157.2 for Kate Grace I know he's got it. He's the king. Boom. Season's top list. Just gonna click on it. Boom. It's female. Look at people. Show this live. Show this live, Elon. They're going through it. There we go. Kate Grace, number 7. She's number 7. Click on that right there.
Got it.
So if you look at her season's results, she was 202, 159 a couple times. But look at her trials, 3 trials races compared to the past 3 races. She ran 2 flat, 159, 159, and gets 7th. And then she goes to Europe. She runs 157.6, 157.3, and now 157.2.
Yeah.
This is one of the best performance, three performances one could have after coming off of not making a team. It's incredible for an American, at least.
I don't know her mindset, but maybe somebody who's running pissed off about her finish at the Olympic trials and is like, I'm ready to do some damage now, and that's how she's performing. So yeah, credit to her. Did not imagine after how she finished the trials that she'd go on a 157 streak in 3 in a row personal best. But she won the trial, although the trials in 16 were wild. But she did win the trials in 2016 and made the Olympic finals. So we know she's capable of stuff. I have known she's capable of this. Good on her for doing this. I mean, it does make it a little bittersweet when you're like, dang, I'm this fit right now. I'm fit enough to challenge for a medal, and I'm just not on the U.S. team. It's tough, but this is as good as you could hope for, and you hope to see her continue to do well after missing the team. That said, today's race, obviously, let's have it with a major caveat when you talk about no Athing Mo, no Ajay Wilson, and no Raven Rogers. I mean, it's kind of a abbreviated women's 1800. You had Gould, you had Rose Almanza, and I know the two Brits. I don't know what. I imagine Laura Muir is going to run the 1500. I don't know if she's entered in the 8. I don't know with Riki as well. I imagine Muir is not going to be in the 8 at the Olympic Games. So really, this race, you can kind of almost throw it away as well, because who wasn't there or who's going to run another event with Laura Muir winning. I mean, great running 156. Both her and Riki, I think, ran 156, which is outstanding. But this race not at all indicative, obviously, of what's going to happen in Tokyo.
Yeah, and Kate Grace moving up that chart. She's now 7th all time in the U.S. Just 0.16 away from 6th. Working her way up. Athing Mo, though, 2nd right now.
I think Athing Mo is gonna kick the ball way down the road for the American record this year. I just have that feeling.
Athing Mo was born after the Backstreet Boys became unpopular. Isn't that wild? Like,
they haven't been cool since then.
That's how young she is.
Maybe she ended
wasn't
their
around
popularity.
when she ended their popularity. That's what I had to say about that. Final 2 events.
Pretty young.
Kind of. Warholm wins again. We were supposed to see Warholm versus Benjamin, but Benjamin didn't show up. Decided to stay home at the States. And Miller Weibo runs 22-2 to beat Talou. I guess let's talk a little bit about this women's 200. We're not talking about Warholm because we talk about Warholm all the time. Women's 200. Who is the favorite in the women's 200?
I think it's Gabby Thomas.
Is it?
Yeah, it should be Gabby Thomas. Yeah, she was on. I mean, you're talking about running 21.6. I know that track was fast, and I know she doesn't have that experience. I think it's Gabby Thomas. I would feel pretty confident putting some cash down on Gabby Thomas right now. I think she's on a whole different level. This race was such a dud today. I don't know why it was so slow. Why Monaco? Did they put syrup on the track? Like, just so many races were slow today. I don't know. Like, I honestly am like a little. That's kind of why I came on saying I was disappointed. Like, the distance races were fine, but the sprint races were so slow. Like 22-23. What place would that have been at the trials? Like 7th? I mean, I forget where everything was, but like that time is so slow based on what we saw in Eugene. And I know it's a different race. But yes, I know Thomas has given up tons of experience, but if this is what a field of Miller, Weibo, Talou, Fraser Price is going to put down, Kambunji, who's a medalist, I haven't seen anything close to as good as what Gabby Thomas has done. I think she's the favorite.
Okay. First of all, one thing I've learned after, analyzing these sprinter events over the past few years is that, like, you got to look past the times. Like, yes, you're like, well, Gabby Thomas runs 21.6. She beats this field by almost a full second, and when you look at Gabby Thomas's resume, her resume is just a time. It's not a resume of beating Miller or Weibo, of beating Fraser Price, of beating Thompson, of beating Talou. That's why I'm starting to think that, like, maybe low-key Miller Weibo should be the favorite due to her experience, and that she is collecting some wins against some more impressive individuals versus Gabby Thomas, who has an impressive win against the clock. But also that she has impressive win. I mean, she beat who got Neva Battle to like Jenna Pernini. They're great, but like we're kind of putting some rose-colored glasses on our own trials, and justifiably because they ran a fast time. But has Gabby Thomas raced Miller Weibo this year? or Shelly-Ann
I don't.
Fraser-Pryce or
Gabby Thomas's situation has
Talia
been weird because
Thompson?
last year, you remember, she had that like suspension for a little bit. Obviously, last year was mostly lost to the pandemic, but she had that like whereabouts confusion last year, and she wasn't a top tier athlete back in 2019. So this is Gabby Thomas's really coming out party. So no, she hasn't. I just think back up. Okay, Miller Weibo wins today. Historically, I know she won the Olympic gold in the 400 in 2016, but in other times, she always hasn't always lived up to the hype in championship races. She ran fast in Doha but got second. I just think she's clearly in her best event. Miller Weibo's best event maybe the 400. She's not even running that at the Olympic Games. You've got Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce clearly better in the 100. I just look at it as Gabby Thomas, a 200-meter runner for sure, and she's running 21.6. Yes, she's unproven, but she's also an NCAA champion, a U.S. champion. I know the Olympics are a different beast, but I don't know. I think if she can just stay in her lane, obviously a big cliche, she should beat everyone. I think she's way fitter than anyone else in the 2 right now. She's given up tons of experience, but I think she's going to
look at this. Yeah. If you look at this screen right now, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce ran 21.79 at the Jamaica trials.
Yep.
And she just got beat by 2 athletes in Talu and Miller Weibo. Like, I just think that we may be kind of like, I'm going to say this. I have a feeling that I could see Gabby Thomas saying, I'm not going to predict this right now, but I'm going to kind of, we'll see. Here it is. I'm making a prediction. Here, you ready for it? I think.
Yeah, I'm ready for your prediction.
A Jamaican, either Jackson or Fraser-Pryce, wins the 200. I think Miller Weibo gets second. I think Gabby Thomas gets third.
Okay. Gabby Thomas third.
Boom.
Man, I will be surprised if that is the result that happens. I don't think you go from running 21.6 to running to getting bronze, but experience matters.
Well, can you see Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce going from running 21.7 to getting third in this Monaco race? Because that's what happened.
Yeah. Here's the thing though. Fraser-Pryce also had a bad 100 a couple days ago, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to know exactly what it was, but one, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce more of a 100 runner, but Fraser-Pryce had a pretty rough race recently in the 100. So maybe something. I'm not saying she's injured or that she suddenly lost fitness, but I don't think it's just we can obviously use the transitive property to talk about. Look at Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, what she's run, and then now look at where she's finishing to suggest that would necessarily happen with Gabby Thomas. So now that we've got it on the background, yeah, that they ran this race and she got second for Fraser-Pryce. There we see it to her countrywoman Thompson, and she still ran in the 10.8s. That is Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. So it wasn't a horrible race, but Fraser-Pryce, we're used to seeing her in the 10.7s. So maybe just not quite there right now. Maybe that was the story today. It could be, it is always a challenge after you get up for the trials, to come back and go to the Olympics and still be on that same form. We've seen that with a similar circumstance with the NCAA athletes. They go to NCAAs, run these crazy world-class times, and then they fall flat at the trials. I think of, who is the young woman who won the 100 and the 2 at NCAAs from North Carolina A&T. She fell flat. Cambry Sturgis, like a clear favorite to make the team in the 2, and then I think doesn't even make the final in the 1, and then has a rough day in the 2. So it can be tough to carry that fitness. So I could see that for Gabby Thomas, but I don't know. I think she's just at such a different level with this new coaching now that she's under the coach Tanya Bailey Buford in Texas. I don't know. I think she's on a different level, and I think things are looking good for her based on today's result.
I think there's a chance Gabby Thomas could be the equivalent of a 12-0 Boise State team that wins every game by 40 points. They're 12-0.
Wow.
And they're about to go to a bowl game and go up against a 10-2 Alabama.
You can't could hide win like that in track, though. Yeah,
but you
can't hide. I mean, the times are the times. Yeah,
times are the times, but not always. Times aren't always times. People have one-off performances all the time. You see people who with the better season's best lose all the time. So with the inferior season's best, I just think that I wish she was in this race because she was supposed to be in this race and she isn't. So I'm guessing she's making the same decision, like, hey, stay home, don't travel, keep the legs as fresh as possible, which I respect. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anything nefarious or anything like, trying to dodge competition or anything like that. But I do think her resume is perfect, but also not. There's not a lot of individuals that she's beat. She has a lot of good times, not necessarily good individuals. And I think in sprinting, it's not just about time. You guys show that you can. You guys show that you can beat someone in a slow race, or So again, I think Gabby Thomas. I want her to win as an American. Yeah, tactical 200. I want her to win as an American, but taking away that bias, the American bias, I do think we shouldn't be overlooking these established vets like Miller, Weibo, Fraser-Price, Thompson, Hurrah.
No, yeah,
too. That's all I gotta say.
It's going to be a good women's 200. I know a lot of people are saying it. I'm excited for that. Listen, there needs to be. I think a young American star will emerge in the flat sprints at the Olympic Games. Obviously, we thought it was going to be sha'carri Richardson. Not going to be that case. Perfect opportunity for Gabby Thomas to kind of steal the show as far as the U.S. women's sprints are concerned. I know McLaughlin is going to be holding it down in the hurdles as far as the young star, but I think Thomas is ready to take some of that spotlight that Richardson would have had, and I think I just really think she's ready for the moment. The times were so good that I'm not worried necessarily about who she has or has not beaten.
Fair enough. Last topic, I want to talk about news hit either yesterday or 2 days ago that we knew that they weren't letting international fans come to the Olympics, that it was just going to be local Japanese fans in the Olympic venues. But now we found out that they are not going to allow local fans in, meaning it's going to feel like the 2020 NBA bubble type atmosphere for these Olympic Games. No fans in the stadiums. It kind of sucks for the athletes, right? Feel like we're kind of on the right side of like getting behind this whole pandemic things. Things are opening up. People are getting vaccinated.
Not in Japan.
Not in Japan. There is that vibe here in America, at least, that like things are starting to open up and there's not skyrocketing deaths because people are getting vaccinated and it's going in the right direction. So you would think that like this you just assumed, I guess, that Tokyo was in that same situation. And then now for it to be told like, no, we're not doing that. It's kind of like, man, you want that environment. What was your reaction to now realizing that they're going to be kind of running track and field on a sound stage in a way?
Yeah, it's a bummer, obviously, for the athletes. For me, watching from home, it doesn't really matter, right? But I think we could sort of see this coming. There have literally been protesters in Japan not wanting the Olympics to happen. There's been some uncertainty even in the last month about whether the games are even going to happen. I think we can safely say now that we're in July, the Olympics are going to happen. I think Japan at this point kind of wishes they weren't going to happen. You had the emperor literally come out recently and say the game shouldn't be there, doesn't want them to be there. They say what you will about the vaccine. The U.S. has had much better rates of vaccination than they've had in Japan, whether that's access or vaccine hesitancy. I think it's a combination of both, but they've had some issues with the coronavirus that that they didn't necessarily have in 2020, at least to the level that they're experiencing now. So I understand why they're nervous. It's a bummer though for the athletes. I think, the professional athletes in the US, have talked about this year, having fans back in the stadium is really helpful. And I think with track, especially feeling that adrenaline, it's conducive to good performance. And I did joke at the beginning, like, oh, it doesn't matter for me. I'm watching at home. It's a bummer as far as even not having any crowd noise is, even if it's pumped in. I mean, honestly, it's going to be a little like traumatic to like have pumped, if they do this, like the pumped in crowd noise. Like that was such a 2020 thing that I never want to relive ever again. Like the thought of having to do cardboard cutouts and pumped in fan noise is just like, is too much for me to even think about right now. But yeah, I mean, it's tough for the athletes. I get why they're doing it, because they're just having an outbreak, but God, man, I wish they could have figured something else out, and either got vaccinated or I don't know, just not had the situation. I do think this is to get it on a medical side, in which I am admittedly not knowledgeable, but I've heard that there's some pretty serious vaccine hesitancy in Japan, so it may have been some of the issues they're having there. But it is nonetheless disappointing for the athletes.
Yeah, it's just also weird. Like we're watching the NBA finals and you're seeing all these videos of like crazy fans from Phoenix, like having enjoying the moment, right? And we're just seeing, feels like sports are kind of back, right? At least from our perspective of seeing, the Phillies beat the Cubs 3 out of 4 times. And sorry, I just had to throw that in there.
No, it's all good.
Yeah. But like just in general, like it's gonna be weird because we're gonna be like, I think a lot of people, at least American fans, are gonna watch and be like, wait, I thought this was over. Like it's gonna be that. It's gonna, like, think about the basketball players, right? The Team USA basketball team, right? They did the whole bubble thing, right? And then they did, all right, we can play in our stadiums, but just empty, right? With just like media or whatever. And then as the season went on, they were like, ooh, half capacity. And then the playoffs happened and they went full capacity. So they saw it go from nobody allowed in to just a little bit to the half. They saw it like slowly open up. And now they're getting to what could be one of the more memorable moments outside of an NBA winning team. They're like, all right, I'm going to represent Team USA. Yeah. Now it's going back to like, wait, I'm in the bubble all over again. It's going to be a little kind of Twilight Zone for some of these athletes who feel like they got on the other side of it and now are going back. It's like full circle. They literally went around the country, around the world, and back where they started.
Yeah, I didn't think of it like that, but the bubble may be traumatic for some of those NBA players. I don't know who all's going. I know Zach LaVine from the Bulls, that's it. But if any of the Heat or the Lakers players are going and who had to spend like 4 months in the bubble, it may be a little haunting for them. But yeah, it's a bummer. I mean, I don't know, man. I think it's going to be obviously the news registered quite a bit, but I think it'll really hit most of the world when they're actually watching the Olympics. And that's where you'll see it pop up on Twitter. Like, there's no fans. What's going on? People just don't. We've kind of experienced a lot of that. People watching track, like that every 4-year cycle. We've seen that this year. People like talking about all these quirks that come with track and field. And they're like tweeting about it. I'm like, why do they do this? And we're like, yeah, I don't know. This has been going this way for a while. So that may happen with the Olympics when people realize when they're watching at home that there's no fans. It's going to be a little odd, but at least they're having the games. I was a little worried that they were going to cancel them just full on cancel them this time. So at least we're going to have an Olympics finally.
Yeah, I never thought they were going to cancel them. I think there's protests for every Olympics, right? There's people... Don't bring the Olympics to Rio. Don't bring the Olympics to here or there. Like, I do think we are kind of getting to a point, though, that the Olympics may need a kind of transition into like a cyclical venue where, like, all right, these 4 cities host it every 4 years, right? And just start
building billions of dollars of new stadiums. Not a good idea in random cities around the world. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, they just
go empty immediately after. Yeah,
because like, say we were in that system, right, where it was like they're either always going to either be in London, L.A., Australia, or I don't know, wherever, another good venue host, and we'd be in a situation. I think they would be like, hey, we'll move it to a different country we can just move it, right? Because we already have the foundation. We're just moving offices. But because all the time, energy is spent on building up Tokyo 2020, they spent so much time building up Tokyo 2020 that they refuse to call it Tokyo 2021. Like, okay, guys, it's not 2020 right now. It's 2020 isn't the number of games it's been. It's the year it's in. So it's not like it's the 2020th Tokyo Games. It's the whatever. So anyway, no, here or there. It's the 2021 Olympics.
The Euro soccer tournament is the same. They're still calling it 2020. And I think back to the cross country championships in March, it was 2020. It's like, I can't deal with this. I'm way too like details focused. Like this doesn't work for me. I don't care when the event was supposed to be taking place. I don't care if you spent $10 million on Tokyo 2020 signs, get new signs. Like it's too much for me. So I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, at least the games, like you said, are happening, which is great. No fans sucks. But hey, we have high quality HD 4K televisions. So we should be able to still enjoy the Olympic Games. Lincoln, I appreciate you. I appreciate you joining the pod. We went long, almost an hour and a half. Hopefully we can talk to you again, bring you on maybe during the Olympics. If you're watching it, we should have some good chats, kind of react to some of the crazy races.
Sounds good. Yeah, just tell me when.
Yeah. So, guys, thanks for joining us. Be sure to like, subscribe, rate high. I don't know all that stuff you do on the internet, but we'll be back. We probably won't go live next week. We'll probably do 3 interview podcasts next week, but then Kevin is back after his 2-week paternity leave, and we'll be back live to preview the Olympic Games. Thanks for joining, guys.